Okay. Right. So then, so I think we have discussed almost everything. HTTP, FTP, TFTP, SFTP, DNS, SMTP, POP, ICMP. Yes, and yes, one more thing, that is TCP and IP, TCP, IP, and UDP. Right, TCP, IP, and UDP. That's very special thing because IP is Internet Protocol, and that is the party giving the addresses. Internet Protocol assigns IPs, IP addresses, assign IP addresses, sending messages by packet switching. Sending messages by packet switching. Assigns IP addresses and sending messages by packet switching. So what is packet switching? Packet switching means larger messages are splitted into packets, because you know, so even though you are given a loaf of bread, you have to slice it, or you have to break it to small pieces. Larger messages are splitted into pieces. Larger messages are splitted or divided into pieces and sent in as a manageable packet. That is called packet switching. And TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. It creates a virtual circuit. It creates a virtual circuit to send the packets in a single route, a single route. It also assures reliable delivery by acknowledging the packets and missing packets. So it acknowledges whether the packets are missing or not. It acknowledges whether the packets are received like thing. And I would like to equal this to a train. I would like to make it equal to a train, right? Railway. So why? The reason is because when you use a railway, it always uses a path, a guided path. කෝච්චියක් යන්නේ නැහැනේ අරහෙනේ. දැන් නුවරින් කොළඹින් නුවරට කෝච්චියක් යනවා නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඔක වේයන්ගොඩ රඹුක්කන ඒ පහු කරන්න ඕන දේ ටික පහු කරනවම තමයි. රඹුක්කන ඇරලා බයිපාස් කරලා යන්නේ නැහැ. වේයන්ගොඩ අතහැරලා වෙන කොහෙන් හරි දාලා යන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. It's always following the same pattern, same path. So then මේ පෙට්ටිත් එකක් ඉස්සර කරන්නේ නැහැනේ. එකක් පස්සෙන් එකක් පිළිවෙලට එනවා. It's like a train. So these packets are delivered in a sequential order. But on the other hand, there's another protocol called UDP. TCP means, I couldn't give the meaning. TCP means Transmission Control Protocol. Sorry, that's my mistake. Transmission Control Protocol. And UDP means User Data Transfer Protocol. user datagram protocol. Sending packets without creating a path and consider the convenient and less traffic path, and it is unreliable delivery. It's unreliable delivery. So it's like tuk-tuk or three-wheel. So you just send the packets and it will follow any route. It will follow any route. The only idea is to go to the destination. Going to the final destination is the only goal. But other than that, it doesn't consider other things. Only need to go to the end. No path, no guidance, no security, no acknowledgement, nothing. So that is the, and please remember that internet uses TCP/IP protocol suite, and sometimes it uses UDP for faster communication. So that means it uses TCP/IP or UDP/IP. Okay, please write down up to this level quickly. Right, next, now we have discussed about the protocols, and so next we should know. So there's one more topic we have to discuss, that is basically URL, or the Uniform Resource Locator. URL or Uniform Resource Locator, and that is how we access websites, and that is how we access resources in the web or resources in the internet. So basically you need the URL. So URL, so it can contain, so basically I'll show you the parts, but the first part of the URL is the protocol. First part of the URL is protocol. Then the second part, so it can be domain name or subdomain or even IP address. Right? It can be domain, subdomain, or even IP address. Then the third part is the resource location. And the final part is the resource name and the extension. So if any, if no extension, that is the folder. Okay, so that is what we are going to write down next. And so please write down Uniform Resource Locator. Uniform Resource Locator. Uniform Resource Locator, or we call URL. Sometimes this is called URI. So in this, in case if you have URI, so URI is Uniform Resource Identifier, and URL is the locator, URN is Uniform Resource Name, right? And you have three things, but let's do the URL part first, so without investigating on the other things. So what is URL? It is a unique location pointing to a resource, in the internet. It's a unique location pointing to a resource in the internet. So that is URL. So basically, I can give you some examples like this. I'll copy the examples from here. These are some examples. These are some examples. If the resource target is a file, then URL will be something like this. if the resources target is the file. If resource target is a folder, if resource target is a folder, then you will see this kind of URL. So the difference is, if it is a folder, right? If it is a folder, so you don't see the file name and extension. But if it is a file, you will see the file name and extension in the end. If it's a folder, you will not see the file name and extension. And also note that, so this is starting from, note that it is starting from the protocol, followed by, protocol, then colon and double slash, then the IP or domain or subdomain, and finally the location of the resource. Okay, I'll tell you how to generate, how to find the URL, and how to basically generate a URL, and how that generated URL will be affected when you are accessing that path. I'll show that practically. First of all, please write the note, and I'll then show the practical part. Okay, so how to basically generate URL. So as I promised, so this is how you do it. Basically, when you go to your control panel, you can use your control panel for this. And let me log in. And I'm going to use some folder. Let's go to online file manager. And let me go to the, okay, Akash, loveslife.biz. I'll go to that. Then htdocs. Go to that. Right click, new folder. Let's say OLICT. And I'll go inside that folder. So let's create another folder. New. Okay. So let's go inside that. Let's create another folder. English. Okay. So let's go inside. And let's create a file. New file. Let's say hello.txt. Hello.txt. It's possible to have text files even. So let's type a small message, hello all. Save. Close. And now you can see akash.loveslife.biz, and htdocs is the main folder, so no need to refer that. OLICT, new English. And how I should type the URL? I have to go to akash.loveslife.biz, and then OLICT, then new, then English. And here you can see the folder, and it's referring to the hello.txt. And then I can type hello.txt to access that file. It will display hello code. Okay, this is the URL. URL is taken. This is the domain. After that, the subfolders and the subfold and the subfold and the file. So this is how URL is made. Right? This is how the URL is made from the particular subfolder and folder path. Right? You can also create a URL and try to access the URL. So basically, these URLs are having links, hyperlinks, but still we didn't learn that in HTML. After linking this, it is possible to find URLs using Google. We can search Google and find the URL, but here the isolated ones, it's quite difficult to access because we have no links to come here. But anyway, with some effort, you can list this in the Google. Google list කරන්න පුළුවන් list වෙනවා. නැත්තේ නැහැ. හැබැයි අර links තිබ්බනම් lazy. Links තිබ්බනම් lazy. link එක අපි කියනවා navigation. So you can navigate to the particular URL. Navigate කියන්නේ යාත්‍රා කරනවා. එක තැනකට යනවා, ඒ ගොඩ බිමෙන් තව තැනකට යනවා, එතනින් තව තැනකට යනවා. ඒ විදිහට යන්න තිබ්බ links තිබ්බනවා. දැන් links නැති හින්දා අපිට කෙලින්ම මේක type කරලා තමයි එන්නේ. Okay, I think you got the idea about this, and let me summarize up to which level we have learned. So we just started learning internet and email, and we discussed about what is internet. Then we discuss about what is URL today, and the parts of the URL, basically the protocol, and this is referring to the World Wide Web, and this is the domain name, and it can be even IP, right? It can be IP even. See the second example that I have given. So it shows IP address. Can be IP address in URL. It can be IP address either. Right? It's a domain name or IP address, the main folder referring to the protocol that we are going to use, and the subfolders or the path, and finally the file and the extension. So that is how the URL is there. And then we discuss about different URLs, right? So here, so different URLs are given to the different protocols. And then we learn what is IP address and how to generate a valid IP address. IP address should be between 0 to 255, and we learned that. And then what is domain name, right? We learn different type of country level domains and top level domains. Top level domains, so there are few listed in this, but we have discussed more. And the country specific domains also we have discussed. Then so how to identify the URL part, domain part from the URL. This URL google.com, this is URL edu.pub.gov.lk, this is ni.lk, this is unicode.org. Likewise, how to identify the domain name and the top level domain or country specific domain. So we learned that. How internet works with the help of DNS, the translation program, domain to IP, IP to domain translation, and how it works. We learned that as well. And then actually we kept some space on this. Here there's a gap. We should learn this, how this actually works. We will discuss that next day, and we discuss about the protocols too. And next day what we have to discuss is we will discuss more services of the internet. We discuss that part also. And World Wide Web, we have to start learning World Wide Web and FTP. Yes, we discuss how this FTP work, client server part we discuss. And the other services and the World Wide Web we have to discuss, as well as this lesson has practical coding part using HTML. We have to learn that as well. Right, I'll keep that to the next day. Then let's see you all in the next day. Good night. Okay, if you have questions, you can ask. Otherwise, let's stop. Okay, seems you don't have any. Right, let's stop then. Okay, then good night. See you all next year.
Good night, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Good night.